Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pop Therapy, a podcast where we explore the intersection between psychology and pop culture. There's so much to unpack, so let's get started. Well, look who's come back to the podcast. Hi, it's your friendly neighborhood therapist, Omar. And one thing I have to get off my chest before I introduce our very special guest. This may sound nuts, but I need to talk a little bit about locker room etiquette at the gym. I feel like we really need to come together as a people, as a society, and really decide together, be in agreement about what's appropriate in a gym locker room. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked in and someone has taken over the entire bench with all of their shit, their backpack, their shoes, their clothes, their towels. And I'll walk up to the locker thinking, oh, okay, they were alone. Once they see me show up, surely they will move their things or they will be like, oh, sorry. And while that does happen rarely, it does not happen nearly enough. I'll be standing there and they're like, it's like they treat that bench or that area of the locker room like it's their closet. And then I'm the one that has to be like, hi, is this yours? Move your shit, please. It is so frustrating. So please keep that in mind. Just be mindful of your surroundings. I hate to generalize. It does feel like it happens more with straight men than with gay men in the locker room. I must say, my guest is nodding in agreement. Okay, great. I feel supported. I feel seen. I appreciate that. But yeah, so just pay attention. It's so annoying to have to move someone else's crap. And yeah, just keep an eye out for your surroundings. I think more, especially with fitness influencers, I would love it if y'all would start talking about proper locker room etiquette and gym etiquette. Maybe you don't have to scream and grunt so loud when you're lifting heavy weights. Maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe this is not the place for you to startle me when I am just trying to enjoy my little workout. Maybe go down a few pounds, maybe just chill out a little bit. Maybe don't hang out in the locker room too. Some locker rooms are made for hanging out. The ones I've been to, I go to Equinox, there is no hanging out space. So it's please just get dressed and leave. Get the hell out. Hanging out, talking on the phone, playing music. This is not a spa. Please, move your, get out of here. Anyway, that's just me. I'm annoyed because I was at the gym today and that's what happened to me. So that is very top of mind. All right, enough of my nonsense. I am so excited to introduce our next guest. This is kind of a fanboy moment for me. This is someone whose content I've enjoyed for a while now. His content has always been so informative and helpful, but also humorous. And that's my favorite kind of content, is someone who is trying to share something really meaningful, but in a lighthearted way. I feel that makes it much easier for me to digest. It makes it much easier for me to be oh, this is important, but it's not doom and gloom. It's not so serious that it freaks me out. It's actually something that I can then integrate. So yeah, I really, really love his stuff. He is a medical provider in Los Angeles. Yeah, and I really can't wait to talk about the medical and physical side of things, because I'm usually much more psychological. So please welcome into your hearts, Jake Collins. Hi.
Hi, Omar.
How are ya?
I'm good. We need to talk about the locker rooms.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? What do you see when, what are you dealing with when you're going?
Well, and you eventually kind of hinted at this, but the first question I was going to ask is, do you go to a gay gym?
Equinox is pretty gay. Yeah. There are straight, I'm using air quotes, Equinoxes. I feel Upper East Side and Upper West Side, in the 90s, very straight. And Wall Street. Wall Street Equinox is straight as far as the eye can see. Yeah.
Those are the places that I would guess would be straight based on the limited knowledge I have about New York, which is mostly from Friends and Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
I need to update my references.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Gossip Girl still stands. Don't you worry.
Okay, thank God. So, yeah, I really feel like it's so much more common with straight men for them to, and I know the whole man spreading thing. I think it's kind of the same thing.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yes.
It's like just being unaware of how much space you're taking up, and it's almost like a power play. And I think that queer people, or I can only really speak for myself, there's a lot of like trying to make yourself smaller.
Yeah.
And like trying to make yourself unoffensive and like fit in.
And like invisible or something.
Yeah. And I suspect that's how a lot of women feel.
Right.
So I wonder if this kind of etiquette is different in a women's locker room.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I would be curious to know as well.
Because when I try to put myself in the mind of somebody who takes up a lot of space in the locker room or makes a lot of noise when they work out, I really can't relate to that because I'm constantly thinking about how everything I do affects everyone else around me and almost like apologizing for it.
Oh my God, yes.
without even knowing that I'm offending anyone. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm taking up space.
Yeah, how dare I take up space? I know. And like, I'd like to, I mean, I don't know if anyone would agree. I doubt anyone would disagree. I'm a bit of a juicier girl. Like, she's dense. You know what I mean? Like, if I was in a cheerleading pyramid, I would definitely be the base. I'm like a dense girl. But I am constantly like trying to, like, I find ways of like trying to make myself smaller. And it's sometimes so comical because I'm like a little bit on the juicier side. So I'm like, this is, and then just like, the dudes, like a lot of the straight guys I see, I can just tell it's not even occurring to a lot of them. And there's a part of me that is so annoyed. Oh, we have a guest. Is that your kitty cat? Oh, cute. Is that a he or she?
He, yes, his name is Hobbs.
Hobbs had some thoughts too on locker room etiquette, obviously.
Yeah. He had some thoughts on me doing anything that is not giving him attention.
I'm the same way. God, like, I feel so bad for my boyfriend because I'm always like, hello, you're not looking at me enough. Or like, hello, say something to me. But speaking of like behaviors of straight men versus gay men, one of the things that I love about the content that you make on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, are your experiences as a medical provider with a queer client versus a straight client. And it makes me giggle every time. How much of that, when you're sharing that, how much of that is like, oh no, Omar, this is exactly how it is, versus like, well, I'm like trying to make it a little bit funnier for like the people watching. Maybe I'm embellishing a little bit. Or is it like, no, this is exactly how it feels for me. This is exactly my experience.
Omar, these are like carbon copies of conversations that I've had.
That bums me. That cracks me up, but also kind of bums me.
And I'm not saying all of my interactions with straight patients are like this, but I will say I'm not the most creative person. I am a man of science.
Yeah.
And
hallelujah. Thank you for your service.
That's right. Science is real. We support that. If anything, I'm like too pragmatic with that kind of stuff. But I think that if I had to fabricate these kinds of little skits that I do on social media, then they wouldn't be as good because I couldn't come up with something like that.
Right.
But yeah, these are real conversations I'm having with straight men. And honestly, the jokes write themselves.
I mean, yeah, right? Like, truth is stranger than fiction. I guess like that like rings true here. Yeah.
And I think, you know how the internet is.
Unfortunately.
Don't read the comments. But if you ever have like a video kind of go viral, there's always going to be people who have something nasty to say.
Sure.
Oh, you're making fun of straight men. You're digging into stereotypes, blah, blah, blah. And I always just think to myself, straight men are okay.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to be okay.
They have all their rights. So I think they're chilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, I think I can make fun of them.
Well, it's also, you're also not making fun of them because it's an actual experience. You're not making fun of them. It never feels mean-spirited or cruel or nasty. It's always just like, hey, this is how sort of straight men navigate the medical world, right? To me, my thought after seeing content is like, oh, what does this reflect? How do we talk to them about their bodies and about their health? And that's where my mind goes. I'm not like, oh, this is Jake's searing takedown of straight men. And no, I'm just like, oh, what does this reflect about us as a culture, that when a straight man walks in, oftentimes the conversations they don't sound like very curious. They're just kind of like, I guess I have to do this because I heard somewhere that I should see a doctor at some point. There's no agency in their own health. They're not taking over their own health and practicing agency around it and stuff like that, which is what I feel most medical providers want. They want their patients to feel they're at the helm of their own health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, well, there's obviously the stereotype of I'm only here because my wife dragged me in.
Right.
And I actually see that a lot. And I'll have a visit where the wife comes along, and that's totally fine.
Right.
Or the
supervise and help navigate, or
yeah, she's almost like the moderator. She's she's talking to me more than he is, because she's telling me, well, this is how he's feeling, this is what he's going through. Because I think, unfortunately, some straight men just are so unpracticed with talking about their feelings that they can't even talk about their physical feelings. Totally.
That makes sense. Yeah. It reminds me of what I used to do in my early social work days, is to take a client to go with them and to be essentially their medical health advocate, to make sure that certain questions are being asked, to make sure that my client understood what was being said to them. These are what the girlfriends are doing. They're basically social workers taking their clients to a medical
Literally,
appointment.
They're like a case manager.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because it's true. They, the appointment won't get set up. The imaging won't happen. The lab, there's so many steps. And I think a lot of these aloof boyfriends are just, I don't know if they're unwilling or just they don't think it's important enough, or they think it's a sign of weakness, maybe, which we know, toxic masculinity.
Right. I think you're onto something, though. It's because we don't encourage our straight boys, our little, kids to talk about their feelings. It's often very I'll give you something to cry about, that sort of vibe. We teach them to kind of cut access off from that. And once you do that, it's sort of you don't get to pick and choose what you cut yourself off from. You cut yourself off from the whole experience of being in your body. So even pain, their ability to talk about their pain, I would imagine, and I've seen, is often lacking in their ability to even name it. This is painful. This really hurts. This is stressing me out. The ability to do that is, again, it leaves something to be desired, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, because I think that goes back to the being worried about coming across as weak. I notice a lot with, this actually happens with all male patients, but this I have a very high pain threshold.
Oh, yeah.
But they are always telling me that when they are in pain, because it's a qualifier for, and that's how you know that this is serious, because I'm telling you about it, even though I have a really high pain threshold. So this is really bad.
Yeah.
Most people couldn't handle this. Most people would be
dead
right now.
Passed out. But. Yeah. They wear it as a badge of honor. I am so not like that. I'm the first one to be I have no pain tolerance. I don't like pain. So if you need to numb me up straight to hell so I don't feel a single thing, absolutely. Any anesthesia you got, I will drink it. I will not literally, I'm not going to drink it, but I'm just being hyperbolic. I will bathe in it. I'm not trying to feel uncomfortable. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to be in what is it that the Kim Cattrall quote? I don't want to be for a moment in a situation where I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I agree with that.
Right. Yeah, for
she
sure.
ate with that.
Yeah, she spilled with that. So tell me a little bit about where you work and the typical population you work with and all of that good stuff. What's the vibe?
Yeah.
What's the vibe over there?
So I work at a private medical clinic in Los Angeles. We're in the Miracle Mile neighborhood. If you want the information for the clinic, you can check the link in my bio. I'll plug it later. But yeah, I've been there for going on 4 years now. It'll be 4 years. Oh, actually, no, I already passed my 4-year anniversary.
Congrats.
So yeah, it was 2 days ago. I need to tell everyone at work so that they congratulate me.
Right. Throw you a little party. Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been doing that for 4 years. I've been a PA in general for 6 years. When I first started, I was like, I'm not going to go into primary care, which is crazy because I had spent all of PA school like working toward that. And all of my previous career was working in like LGBT healthcare, nonprofits, HIV research. And then when I finished PA school, I was like, I want to work in a specialty. I'm too good for this primary care stuff.
What was the specialty that you were daydreaming about?
Something like sexy, dermatology or aesthetics or something.
Gotcha.
I ended up in orthopedics.
Okay.
Which is sexy in a different way. It's kind of like macho.
Oh, is that true? Okay. I can see that, like,
because it's all like, musculoskeletal stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Orthopedic surgeons are kind of like the bros of the surgeons because they're just like hammering and sawing. And
right. Like a carpenter.
All that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is very interesting to me. But I learned very quickly that part of the thing that made me want to get into medicine was working directly with other queer people. And when that element of it was taken out, I started to really not enjoy my job.
That makes sense.
So I was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm like connecting with these patients. And it's also a little different in orthopedics because people come, they have their problem addressed, and then they leave. And in primary care, you get to see the same patient over and over continually for years. So I have patients that I've been seeing for, I guess, 4 years now.
Oh, lovely.
And that's kind of like a relationship that I feel like I've built up with them. And we have the shared community. Most of my patients are LGBT. So yeah, it's just a way better fit. So anyway, I work in LGBTQ plus primary care.
Love it.
And I would say like 90% of my patients are probably somewhere one of those letters.
Right.
I will have random, and the reason why I'm able to make the content about straight men is because our practice just shows up on people's like insurance webpage.
Right.
Because we have good reviews.
Right.
And so they find us that way. And I don't think we're obvious from like a online perspective that it's like a queer practice, even though all of the providers are queer.
Yeah.
And that's primarily
that's
what we
so
do.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in my practice, we work in a larger suite where it's primarily queer providers. But in my practice, my supervising physician, myself, and the other PA that I work with are all queer.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's, I remember the first time I don't know if I said this on another episode, but the first time I worked at a nonprofit agency in my social work career where everyone was gay was like so, and I really don't mean to sound dramatic, but like life-changing in the best way possible. It just felt so nice to be in a room of other mental health providers, all of whom or most of whom were queer, are identified as queer in some way. And like, I didn't have to like come out unless I was straight. If I were straight, I would have to come out as straight. But the assumption was just like, oh, you're gay. And I was just so like, oh, this is so nice. I don't know. And it like, that felt so just like the community building, yes, but also just like easy. I don't know how to do it. Just like felt so like simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think this is something that's hard for people to realize if they're used to being the majority of everything. They're in the majority group, so they're, used to the people around them mostly looking like them. But there's just like a different level of comfort that you get when you feel like you're with your people.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I think from like a work perspective, for me personally, that's huge. And it's nice to have that every single day and not feel like I have to go into an office where I don't really get to fully be myself or talk about my personal life in a way that people might judge me for.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely get that.
You don't have to worry about any of that. Yeah. Do most of your patients come to you knowing like that they will probably get a queer provider or that you yourself are gay? Like, most of the time, do they come understanding that and for that reason?
Yeah, I think we use a little bit of search engine optimization probably to, if you type in gay doctor Los Angeles, I think our office probably pops up.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Patients have told me that that's how they found us before.
Okay. Easy peasy. One of the questions I get a lot, and I would imagine you do as well or have as well, is like, as a therapist, people will ask me, does it really matter if my therapist is like gay or straight? Like, should I take that into consideration is essentially the question, which I understand. And my response is generally like, it's really up to you. Like, you are in charge of your treatment, essentially. And so if you yourself can build a case for working with a clinician that is gay because maybe you don't want to explain what Grindr is. Maybe you don't want to explain like what a dark room is. Maybe there are just aspects to queer culture that you're like, I'd rather not explain it and I would rather have them know, versus other people who are like, I want someone so far removed from this world because it offers me like distance or like space between themselves and their therapist. Like I have run into clients out and about, like at a party. And so I understand why some folks are like, absolutely not. I would hate that. And others are like, I wouldn't really care. I actually prefer that because then I know they like understand this world. Do you often get asked questions like that? And like, what's your take?
So I think that kind of in my role, it makes a little bit more sense for, and maybe this is just my opinion,
Sure,
I think it makes sense for the healthcare provider to be gay too.
Sure.
And that's what I would want. Right. Because I want them to understand my lifestyle enough to make sure that they're doing all of the proper screenings and testing. And I also want to feel like I'm not having to explain anything to them to a degree that it could alter my medical care in some way.
Of course. Yeah.
I think but I get what you're saying. I think with therapy, I think there's kind of two sides to the coin, because there is that fear of them being maybe too close to your circle. And I think there's also a little bit more anonymity that's expected with therapy.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you kind of want to see your therapist. I mean, this is also an opinion, but you want to see your therapist as like this person that's like over there.
Yeah. And I mean, so do I. Like, I feel the same way.
Yeah. Like, they live inside my computer.
Right.
And
right. Or they live inside this office, in this building. And that's the only place they exist, in this office.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that for me, I run into patients everywhere.
Oh, I bet.
Everywhere.
I bet. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I really can't avoid it if I'm going to be social. And it doesn't just happen in LA.
Right.
It happened last weekend in DC.
In DC? Oh, wow.
It happened, previously last year when we were in Madrid.
Okay.
Like,
no way. Madrid. Oh, wow. International.
Madrid. And I'm not talking like one patient. I ran into probably like 10 patients in Madrid last year.
Yeah, I think I would faint. If I ran into 10 clients out and about, I think I would pass out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's also something a little bit more casual, maybe, about what I do than what you do. I don't know. Maybe.
It's so interesting because I agree with you. And again, like, what the hell do I know? I'm not a medical provider, of course. But for me, like, I want my doctor to be gay. And it's not even necessarily because I don't want to explain certain things. To your point, I don't want it to alter the treatment. I don't want it to alter the care. And so, like, the doctor I have now, I love him. And I've been working with him for like 15 years, like a really, really long time, maybe 10. But one of the reasons why I really liked him was because he was the first provider that when I had an STI, he was so, in the best way possible. He was like, this isn't a big deal. Like, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was asymptomatic. Like, how did this happen? And he's like, whatever, dude, like, it happens. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll treat you for it. You know, like, sure, be careful next time. Here are some ways to practice like various degrees of safe sex, like yada, yada, yada. But like, also chill out. It's not that big of a deal. Whereas, and this may not be fair to say, but like, I've heard stories of other medical providers almost like catastrophizing STIs and like, oh my God, you have chlamydia in your throat? Like, this is so bad. Or they may not say this is so bad, but they almost like shame the patient. Like how dare you get that? You know what I mean? Whereas my gay doctor was like, oh yeah, it happens. If you are like sexually active at all, it's probably going to happen at some point in your like sexual career. And that's when I knew, oh, he like calmed me down. That's what I need, not someone who freaks out with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I that's one of my favorite kinds of conversations to have with patients, is the one that helps talk them off the ledge by convincing them. It's like a game for me. How much can I reduce their anxiety about this?
That's a great game.
Yeah,
That's a lovely
to match
game.
what I think it should be, which is, pretty low.
Mm-hmm. What's your policy, whether as an individual or if, I don't know if your clinic has a policy around running into patients out and about? Like, how do you navigate that? Or what are some of the best practices for you?
Yeah. So I don't usually approach, oh goodness.
Hobbs, hi.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that so big?
He's like, let me get
he's like, I have some thoughts. Yeah.
I'm going to try to hold him here and see if he stays,
so cute,
so that I can keep him from getting in the way. But so generally my approach is to not approach unless they approach me first.
Same.
So, HIPAA and all that, we try to keep things confidential. But if the patient agrees to recognize me in public, then of course I'm going to go say hi. They might have to like remind me,
right,
like, how we know each other.
Sure.
Because we don't always, it's a different setting,
Yeah,
a lot of times if I see you out at a club or something, I'm in a different setting, right? I'm not wearing a mask. You're not wearing a mask. I'm, maybe I had a drink or two. Who knows? So there's a chance I might not recognize you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot easier to recognize your provider because you only have one, but I have, thousands of patients.
Right.
It's a little harder for me.
So as long as they are comfortable approaching you, you're like, that's totally fine. More than happy to say hi, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it becomes like, we can chill. I have patients who are my friends, but there has to be like a respect of the line.
Of course.
Right. So we can be friends, but we're not going to talk about medical stuff.
Right.
You're not going to try to take advantage of this situation,
right?
To
get meds or something like that. Yeah. Like, I'm not prescribing you random meds just because we're buddies. Yeah,
exactly. And for the most part, people are. Oh, and then the last thing, which is, you're not going to try to do anything sexual with me or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm very, very firm about. I don't flirt with patients. I don't do anything like that.
Yeah.
we got to keep it platonic.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
Of course. Of course. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry. You were saying you think.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it goes without saying, but
you would hope so.
Most patients do get that. But I think there's also, on the flip side, there's this kind of like, oh, the doctor fantasy.
Yeah. Totally.
You know?
Yeah. I can relate to that because similarly, there's like the therapist fantasy and it's so intimate. What we do, it's so intimate. It's not casual, right? Like, patients are telling us some of the most personal, private, intimate things. And so it is all the more important for us to be like, this is the hard line. Like, this is not romantic, because then it'll sort of disrespect, you know what I mean? The relationship or the intimacy that we share. But I do understand why those feelings might come up for a patient or for a client.
Yeah. Well, and we have everything to lose. They have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Right.
You know, we could lose our license practice, you know, which is our livelihood.
Right.
So I think that the stakes are just a little different on their side. They're like, oh, this would be so hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I will have like friends be like, oh my gosh, have you ever been like tempted to like do something with a client? And I'm like, I did not go to grad school and put my ass in all this like school debt just so I can risk it all for a cute client. Like, no, I couldn't care. Like, absolutely not. This is how like I live. This is how I make money. So there's no part of me that is interested in risking that at all. It's just, it's so easy for me to like flip that switch. And it's like, you are a client. I do not feel anything other than like care for you as a therapist, but like not as a friend, not as a lover, not as like anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and once you've been in that role of like providing care for someone and having them be vulnerable with you, I think it would take a kind of sick person to be like, let me take advantage of this situation.
I know, right? Yeah, that's like dark-sided. No, agreed. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not trying to put that energy out there.
Amen. How many, and you can plead the fifth if you want, I would imagine that some of your patients have also found you through social media and have maybe found you to be oh so cute or oh so handsome, and then they show up. I wonder, like, do they show up and you're like, I think you have an ulterior motive here, like, or I think this is more than just about looking for a primary care physician. Do you like sense that sometimes?
Yeah, I definitely have had that. I get patients from social media all the time, and the vast majority of them are normal,
right? Just
people who are looking for like queer healthcare, and every now and then we'll get somebody who's just, you can tell it's so obvious. We're not subtle.
Yeah.
So I can see what's happening. Let me just give like a really obvious compliment while staring at you inappropriately.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I'm like, okay, great. So, you know, it happens. It happens. And there are a few patients that I have kind of declined to see more than once.
Okay.
Because of that. I'm like, okay, cool. We're gonna have you see my lovely colleague.
Yeah.
And
refer.
Who is female, and so probably won't suffer the exact same kind of harassment, hopefully.
Right.
So yeah, we try to just gently nudge people in the right direction with stuff like that.
Do you feel comfortable? Because it's a different setting, but in like therapy world, we're often trained and encouraged to call that out. So if someone is making a flirty comment or complimenting you on your looks or something, as a therapist, usually the best practice is considered to like call that out and address that to make sure, basically to like nip it in the bud, to be like, hey, so I'm noticing this thing keeps coming up. Like, what does it mean for you? What do you think this means? How might this impact the treatment? yada, yada, yada. Do you understand like the boundaries here? Do you understand that this is a professional, like you sort of like go through all of that while trying to help them understand what is coming up for them in the session. Do you feel comfortable having conversations like that? Have you had to? What is that like? How do you typically navigate those situations?
This is something that I'm definitely still working on. I've been successful at it a few times.
Okay, great.
But my natural tendency is to just get out of the situation. And so I'll just kind of like laugh along, or I'll say thank you, even though I know really what happened was not appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I've been trying to lean into a little bit more is realizing that when someone makes me uncomfortable, then I should not feel bad if my response makes them uncomfortable.
100%. Yep.
So I'm trying to be better about that.
Yeah.
About, saying more of a, well, that's not really okay to say.
Right. Right.
It's something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
Because again, we're still customer service in a certain way.
Right.
And so there's this
of
weird
course.
balance of, well, I'm not going to just come out and say like, hey, that's, uncalled for and like shake my finger at him because Google reviews and Yelp.
Right. And reputation, like, all those things
yes,
matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we have to be kind of a little bit more gentle with the way we correct people's behavior.
Yeah, I hear. No, same. I mean, like, there is a part of me that sometimes it feels like there's two parts of me. One that's just like uncomfortable and wants to laugh it off and just sort of like dismiss it and let's move on. And another part of me that's like, that feels like kind of disrespected a little bit, like a little bit like, oh, are you not taking this seriously? Are you not taking me seriously? There's a little bit of that. And then there's someone in the middle that's like the training kind of kicks in and like the clinical response comes out. But there are those different parts that exist in me, and it's all like a work in progress. Like I certainly can't claim to have handled it or navigated it like perfectly every time. I just like try to get better at it over time as it happens is sort of like my goal. Just like, okay, I'll just like keep getting better at it. That's like all, it doesn't have to be perfect, but like I do want to get better at it is the dream for me, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that at least having that intention is part of the way of achieving it. Because if you keep doing the same thing the same way and you're not even telling yourself, oh, I could have done better with that, then how are you going to ever get better?
Improve. Right. Exactly.
So I've gotten to the point where when something inappropriate happens, like sometimes I'll correct it, but usually I'll like walk out of the room and then I'll like say something to my nurse.
Okay. Get some support.
Then I'll be like, oh, I feel like I should have handled that differently, and we'll kind of talk about it and talk about what I could have said. And
okay,
I think it's like good to reflect on that, because then I'm like, okay, next time.
Exactly. Good. Okay, I'm glad you have that. I think that's like super important to like have like a colleague or a supervisor or a mentor that's able to help walk you through like, here's what you could try next time, sort of thing. So that way you don't feel like definitely alone, like, oh, I guess I have to figure this out by myself, which sucks.
Right.
Like no one wants to feel like you have to figure it out by yourself. So I'm glad that you have that. One of the things that I would love to get your thoughts on is a phenomenon that I've been noticing with mental health providers as well, which is the intersection between mental health therapy clinicians and social media. And I have like lots of thoughts about this, just like the rise in clinicians posting content on social media. And, a lot of it is like lovely sound advice. However, sometimes there's a clinician that comes on and I'm just like, ooh, I don't know if that's a helpful take. Like, I have like questions about the information they're sharing or, and I'm wondering if you have like a similar thoughts or similar reactions to, because I'm seeing a lot more medical providers on social media providing most of the time, again, like really great advice and sharing really meaningful stories. So like, what are your thoughts on that trend right now?
Yeah, I think that the biggest concern that I have isn't for the healthcare providers
Mm-hmm.
out there that are making content. I think generally what I see from healthcare providers is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of health related content from people who are not qualified to talk about it.
Amen.
And there that can be really, really dangerous. I feel like I see so much these days. And this might be because I'm like very keyed into like vegan TikTok and
Yeah.
stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So I get a lot of that stuff, which I generally am like, yay.
Sure.
But when it comes to the kind of like the carnivore diet and the
Yeah. Yeah.
seed oils and
Right.
like there's a lot of stuff that's like kind of trending right now that
Mhm.
there's like literally no
Right.
evidence to support.
Yeah.
But they're really loud
Mhm.
and they're getting tons of engagement and
So
tons of
much.
views.
So much.
And that really worries me because I think that for some reason there's this trend to not trust, the medical system.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think ever since COVID, we've really started to see the divide politically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always like liberal versus conservative. There are
Right.
definitely people on both sides who are hesitant
Yeah. Skeptical.
to
Yeah.
trust, what's being the information that's coming out. And I think it's always good to be hesitant or to be like skeptical.
For sure.
But if you're going to be skeptical about like what the WHO says or what the CDC says, then I want to know what source you are comfortable with.
Right.
Because if the source you're comfortable with is just this person on TikTok who is just saying whatever they want, maybe even like rage baiting people just to get views, then I don't really think that that's better.
Right.
I think at least there's like some semblance of like evidence-based research behind like the recommendations that are being put forth by certain agencies. And they're definitely not without their flaws.
Sure.
Why don't we have any of the awesome sunscreens that exist in like Korea?
Sure. Right.
It's just stupid bureaucratic nonsense.
So you brought up SPF and just like where people source their information, right? And like I never thought that one day I would wake up and there would be a war against sunscreen. It really I was shocked. I was like, wait, have these folks never experienced a sunburn one day and then wearing sunscreen and not getting a sunburn? Like, have you not experienced? I have. Like, I've had days where I like forgot to put on sunscreen, or I thought, oh, it's cloudy, I'm fine. And then I get sunburn. And then another experience where I'm out and I wear sunscreen and I don't get sunburned. And I'm just like, isn't that enough? It's like, even if it's just to avoid a sunburn, which is painful, and we all know how much I hate pain, and uncomfortable, and like the peeling afterwards, it just sucks. So it like really blows my mind. But I think to your point, like the folks that are saying sunscreen is really bad for you, it's cancer causing, they tend to be the loudest folks on social media, and they tend to be the most like rage baity, and they speak with such conviction that it just sounds like, oh, they must know what they're talking about. This must be true. But
yeah, people who speak on just pure emotion a lot of times are very like, they seem very credible because they're so passionate. And how could you be so passionate about something unless you like are really sure about it?
Right.
And I think that's probably some sort of logical fallacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that the people who are using, it has chemicals in it, as an excuse to not use sunscreen, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Because not using sunscreen has a like 100% chance of increasing your risk for skin cancer.
Right.
We don't know what the risks are of these chemicals, but they're definitely not that high.
Right.
So, and then you have mineral sunscreen. So,
yeah. And it's funny. And this is not a critique on like aesthetic cosmetic surgery stuff. I am like, you want Botox? Go absolutely off, my king. Like, do it, like, whatever makes you happy. What I find fascinating, though, or a little confounding, is a lot of the folks that talk about how harmful these chemicals are, or like, you can't even pronounce the name of this ingredient, so it must be so bad for you, are so Botoxed up. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, why? That's a chemical, too, that you're injecting into your...
It's a toxin.
It's a toxin. So that specifically is what really kind of... I'm like, wow, the mental gymnastics you need to do in order to do that is like impressive. But like, that's what doesn't... It never quite makes sense to me. So you'll inject your face with toxins, which again, go off. Absolutely. But then you're fear mongering when it comes to sunscreen. Like, what? Yeah, I don't know. I've never been able to reconcile that in my brain.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of that in practice when it comes to, I mean, I'm in LA, so there's a lot of like, woo-woo natural remedies. And I mean, maybe you can tell by the way that I even said that, but I'm not like a hugest proponent of those things.
Right.
Because again, in medicine, we really shoot for evidence-based medicine.
Right.
We want something that has data to support its use. And a lot of natural remedies don't. And I think that I've run into a lot of like fear around prescription medications, which again, it's good to be skeptical.
Right.
But if you have a really bad UTI, drinking cranberry juice is not going to fix that.
No, ma'am.
Take the antibiotics, hon.
Right.
So and then at the same time, people who are really worried about antibiotics or whatever other prep, what other medication I'm trying to prescribe them, at the same time, they're like doing whatever drugs at parties.
Amen. Yep. That's another really good example. Yeah, same. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, so,
So G'ing out, you're totally
ketamine
cool
is okay.
Yeah. I'm like, how do you reconcile that in your brain? Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Yeah, for sure. And I agree. I think a healthy sense of skepticism is appropriate. In fact, reasonable, like totally reasonable. And, therapists, the mental health world and community hasn't always been the best with women, with people of color, with queer people. Like therapists and the mental health world, like, I get the history and I get why there's some like distrust there 100%. But you also have to be able to, as a patient, as a client, you also have to be able to kind of like think about that, right? And like, so if you're skeptical, fine. So how do you assess for trust? Like, so what kinds of conversations can you have in order to build a little bit of trust, or in order to assess for like whether or not this provider is someone who actually has your best interests at heart? Skepticism is great, but if you're generalizing, well, I can't trust anybody in the mental health community. I can't trust any therapist. I can't trust any provider. Then I'm like, well, this is risky. Now this is like sounding incredibly risky. So yeah, I agree. Skepticism is fine if done well. You know what I mean? If like navigated masterfully.
Yeah. And I think that's why having that close relationship with your provider is so important, and with your therapist,
100%.
Where you feel like you can trust the advice they're giving you. I think one of my strategies, and I hope my patients don't hear this and think that I'm like using some sort of tactic on them. But this is something that I employ a lot, is I have the conversation with them about their hesitancies. And, I listen. and we discuss it. And then I give them my recommendation, which is usually some sort of prescription medication, because I think that's really what the right thing to do is. And I'll tell them, look, the easy thing for me would have been not to have this conversation. The easy thing would have been to agree with you and let you go. But I'm having this conversation with you because I care about you and because I really want you to be healthy.
Right.
This happens a lot when I'm talking about like blood pressure with people, because people are so, they're just so, they call it the silent killer.
Wait, so there's a lot of folks that are super resistant to taking blood pressure medication?
Super resistant.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Is that because they don't think blood pressure is that big of a deal? Or like what's your sense of why? That's fascinating. That's new to me.
I don't know. I think that I get this impression that people think that if they have a good diet and they exercise and their blood pressure is still high, then it's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if it's like it runs in their family, or they just drink a lot of coffee, or like whatever.
Yeah.
If there's some sort of reason that they can assign to why they have the elevated blood pressure, then somehow that cancels out and it's okay.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell them like, yes, okay, it's totally true that this could be from your caffeine intake, or this could be because you're stressed right now.
Yeah.
But if you're living in this constant state of stress, or if you're going to be drinking coffee for the rest of your life,
right,
then we need to start treating your blood pressure because it is elevated.
Yeah.
And it's regardless of the reason why it's elevated.
It's elevated.
It's dangerous for your health.
Right,
It's elevated. So that's kind of the conversation that I constantly have. And then it always turns into this, well, I want to exercise more. I want to do this and that. And it's really hard to get people to agree to start taking a medication for something that they don't directly feel.
Right. I see.
So, and I think that's why they call it the silent killer.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can have a stroke, you can have a heart attack, but you're not going to feel the danger associated with high blood pressure. Usually, I mean, you can get headaches and stuff, but for the most part, it's asymptomatic, and it's just slowly degrading those blood vessels.
Whoa. Okay. Oh, wow. That's again, that's like surprising to hear. But the approach for you is to basically like let them know, hey, I'm on your side, right? Like I'm on your side. I just like want you to be healthy. I'm not trying to like sell you anything. And again, it would be easier for you as the provider to have a 2-second appointment with them and not have any conversation with them and just send them on their way and just like see the next patient. Like that would be the easy thing to do.
Yeah,
so you like highlight the fact that the effort that you're putting into having this conversation is like, it's a choice and it's coming from a well-intended place, essentially.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I will say one more thing, because I did mention like Google reviews earlier. If you think about the kind of healthcare provider that might be getting just only 5-star reviews, it might be that person who is just having the 2-minute conversation with you.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And I sometimes think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful with the way that we approach a negative review, because is it the fault of the provider, or is it that the patient heard something that they didn't want to hear?
Yeah. That's fair.
And I don't know why that just came to me, but
no, I think that's a good point. I mean, it's kind of like what I often tell my own clients who struggle with like people pleasing behaviors or who prioritize wanting to be well liked by everyone. And my response to that is, listen, first of all, that's impossible. Second of all, if I ever met anyone who was liked by everyone, then I'm like, wait, so who are you? Because how can everyone like you? It means that you are sort of like not bringing your true self to every single setting if everybody likes you. So like, what's going on here? Like how are you doing? Because even the nicest people are bound to have folks that are just like, oh no, I don't like that person, which is like fine. So I mean, that's how I feel about that. Like, you didn't piss anyone off? Like, I'm wondering like what's going on here.
Yeah, like if you don't if there's not any sort of controversy ever anywhere or conflict in your life, then are you even like a human being? Or are you just like, there are people out there who don't like Dolly Parton. There's not many. There's like a couple.
Yeah.
But I think if there were none at all, like, is she even a real person?
Right. No, exactly. And she's definitely pissed off people. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good point. I'm going to use that.
Diane Sawyer.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to be like, there are people that don't like Dolly Parton. So,
that's right.
So like, take that. Yeah, that's right. A really good point. What are some questions that you like to encourage patients or potential patients to ask their providers? Like, how can someone who's looking for an awesome provider assess appropriately for like a good fit? What are some questions that you think will really help people gauge whether it's like this provider is a great fit or not?
I think being really honest with them when you have your initial appointment. I think something that seems to make my patients feel really comfortable with me is when we have our first appointment, they'll ask me, or they'll say like, hey, like, I take these illicit substances. Is it okay for us to talk about that? And I'll say, yes, of course. Like, I want to know everything. I don't want you to feel like you can't tell me anything.
Yeah.
And that goes for substance use to sexual activity. Like, if you are doing something, even if it's something that maybe seems very like private or maybe potentially someone out there might shame you for it, I'm not going to shame you for it. So I think the best thing a patient could do is just be honest at the very front, because you're going to be able to tell from your provider's reaction if they're the right fit.
I think that's such a good point. Yeah. And it's tricky because so many folks are afraid to be honest for that exact reason, right? They're like trying to avoid pissing off their provider or like causing them to shame them. And it's like, no. Actually, that is the best way for you to gauge whether or not this is a good working relationship. So like, don't avoid that. And if they do end up shaming you, it's probably more of a reflection of them professionally versus you as the patient, as the consumer.
100%.
Yeah. That's like people make jokes all the time about like when I mean, and even I've done this less so like lately, but like in the beginning I definitely was not telling the truth as to like how many drinks I would have like during the weekend, because anything like more than 4 would usually get like some weird response. And now I'm just like, no, I should be honest with them. Like if I had more than 4 drinks over the past weekend or like whatever, then just be upfront about that. And then you can like gauge their response. If they're freaking out or screaming at you, it's like, okay, this probably isn't going to work. But if they're like, okay, I get it. Like, let's make sure this isn't a habit of yours. Let's make sure like not every Saturday night you're drinking that much, but like you drank that much because it was your birthday. Fine. Like, okay. But let's, keep an eye on that and make sure it's then I'm like, okay, cool. Like I can work with that.
Yeah. And I think it's about building that relationship too, because I can have conversations with the patients I've been seeing for 4 years that I definitely wouldn't have had at their first visit, the first time I'm meeting them.
Yeah, of course.
I can say like, hey, that's too much.
Right.
That's, you're doing a lot right
now.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah. But someone that you don't have established that relationship with, they can't call you out as easily, but it's kind of like, almost like a parent or an older sibling or something, they're able to read you a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Without it coming across as like
an attack,
or unsafe in some way.
Yeah, unsafe. Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. Are there any common like health medical myths that you find yourself often debunking or often talking to patients about? Are there any that have been coming up a lot for you either lately or have been coming up for you just for as long as you've been working? Anything come to mind?
I think that, I mean, one of the conversations that I feel like we kind of hinted at this earlier, but that I feel like I'm always kind of debunking has to do with the seriousness of a positive STI test.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking, I mean, my population is mostly queer, so they're not super worried about a gonorrhea or chlamydia diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Syphilis, people get a little bit freaked out by because it has that kind of medieval times
Totally.
disease
Yeah.
vibe.
Like rickets or something.
They're like, oh, people still get syphilis?
Yeah. They should, right.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
But what the conversation I usually have more is around HPV and HSV.
Okay.
And just letting people know that these viruses are extremely common.
Right.
Like,
okay.
HSV, which is the herpes virus.
Okay.
You've got type 1 and type 2, and they used to say type 1 is oral, type 2 is genital, but it doesn't really work out that way. I diagnose HSV1 in the genital area all the time.
Oh, so what was commonly seen as like, oh, that's the one, that's the oral sore, that's the
cold sore, that's whatever. It's not, not sex related.
Right.
It can be.
Right, of course.
Or you could get herpes in a genital area from someone who has a cold sore. It doesn't, it's the same virus.
Right.
So, more than, I think, 2/3 of the adult population will test positive for one
or the other
types of herpes. Mm-hmm. And it's really not that big of a deal. It's not going to affect your life. It's annoying to have those outbreaks. Most people don't get them very frequently.
Right.
Some people get them really, really terribly. Mm-hmm. And I feel for those people.
Yeah.
But I think that the first time that someone tests positive for it, there's like this, I mean, you would have thought they would have tested positive for HIV.
Yeah. I've also seen the similar reactions where even as a therapist, I'm like, listen, I'm not a medical provider, but I'm pretty sure this is okay. Like, you're going to be just fine. Like, obviously go talk to a doctor about this, but like, let me try to put your mind at ease a little bit. Like, this is not a death sentence. I promise you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I do see that more with straight patients than I do with non-straight. But I mean, even my non-straight patients, they're just so scared of herpes.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. You probably already had a type of herpes from like early in your life and you just didn't realize it because you thought it was something else because it was around your mouth.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And essentially the same type of conversation goes for HPV. Like like 90% of adults will have HPV at some point in their life. The only way you could completely prevent it is just to not have sex.
Right. Which I don't know how realistic that is for most people, but yeah.
Right. And so I always tell patients, like, if you are sexually active and you're having sex with other people who are sexually active, everyone has signed like a nonverbal contract that they are okay with some degree of risk.
Right.
And that risk is that they might get exposed to something.
Right.
And if it's something like HPV, which usually is just more of an annoyance than anything else, then you're just going to have to live with it.
Right.
Just like everybody else does. Just
I
like 89% of people do.
Right. And I think what's also what you're saying is like, you're going to have to live with it. And like, you can, it's not a cross to bear. It's just like, oh, right. It's this like annoying thing that you want to be on top of and you want to be conscious of, but it is not going to disrupt your life. Typically, it won't disrupt your life in any like meaningful way outside of like, again, annoyance, which is totally manageable.
Again, yes, there are some serious complications associated with HPV. So I definitely don't want to not point those out. So for people who have a cervix, they can, if they get HPV there, they can get cervical cancer.
Okay.
Anyone who has receptive anal sex can get anal cancer from HPV. it's very uncommon to get either of those.
Right.
But it's still good to get screened. And
Right.
that's why you need to have a healthcare provider that you feel like you can talk to about this stuff. Because if you're doing those things, it's important to get screened, unless you're just like a sweet monogamous, never had sex with anybody else, and also they've never had sex with anybody else.
Right. And I mean, those folks are out there. It's just like not common, I would imagine.
It's not common.
Yeah,
and that's what I always try to tell folks is like, there's so many more people in your shoes than there are on the other side of it.
So, 100%. I think that's a really good reminder. Yeah. Like, you are in good company. Like, you are not on this boat alone. I promise you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you have any specific like professional goals? Like, as you are gaining more popularity on social media, do you have like a dream? Is there something on your vision board? Like, I want to host like a daytime talk show or like something like that you see in the horizon, or do you not think that far ahead? What like what is on your vision board?
Good question. I'm in the phase of I'm going to start telling people so that it becomes like almost a little bit of like a responsibility, like accountability. So I'm like, okay, I'm saying this here.
Yep.
So hopefully that'll make sure I actually do it.
Yeah.
Because as you can see, I have my microphone.
I know you got all the equipment ready to go.
I do. Well, I've had this microphone for a while, and there's just like a lot of like tech things when it comes to starting a podcast. And I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah. I'm like, I got my master's in social work, not in tech. So I am like very much fish out of water when it comes to like editing and all of that. Yeah.
And I always thought I was good at it because I could program my MySpace. But it turns
I couldn't even do that. I am so impressed by that, actually.
I mean, apparently there's more to it than just that, though.
Yeah. Anyone that could program their MySpace, I was like, oh, you're a coding master. Like, like you're hacking, into the mainframe. That like always blew my mind.
Yeah. I was so proud of it. I was like, this is so cool. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to add music.
Right.
But anyway, so that's kind of my next big thing is I'm starting a podcast, and I'm like a huge fan of podcasts. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I said yes so quickly when you asked me to do this. That's something I've been doing. I've started listening to them like 10 years ago. Yeah. Before they were even like really a thing. Right. When Serial came out, that was my first podcast.
That's a good first podcast. That's a really good first podcast. Yep. Yeah.
And I've been chasing that high ever since.
So what was it? Sarah Koenig, right?
Yeah.
Chasing that Sarah Koenig high ever since.
She's amazing. And I mean, the subsequent seasons were also good, but that first season was...
of course. No. That was like water cooler. I think that was maybe, obviously I don't know, but I think that may have been the first podcast that was like water cooler talk. Like that is what you talked about at work. For the first time, it wasn't only like a TV show or a reality show. I think this is like the potentially one of, if not the first podcast that like everyone was talking about it at work.
Yeah, it was like the White Lotus.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And everyone's like, giving their theories and their opinions. It's very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I yearn for another like true crime moment that's as top of mind
and like captivating. That was. Yeah. So well done. What is, if you don't mind me asking, what are you hoping your podcast is going to be about, or what is it about? What direction are you taking there?
Yeah. So the idea is bringing people into the types of conversations that I have with my patients. All of my content that you can currently access on like Instagram and TikTok is short form. And so I'm trying to do more long form and really get into details so that I can help educate people in a more complete way rather than like in this bite-sized kind of way. And I just want people to feel like they're kind of able to take charge of their own health and at least know what to be looking for, what to be asking about. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that we talked about on this episode. Yeah. I'm going to do an episode for most of the different STDs because that is my bread and butter.
Gotcha. That's great. I feel like that's that's wonderful. Especially I mean, for everyone, obviously, but especially for your straight male patients, I'm hoping that they listen to those episodes. I feel like that's super helpful and informative to like destigmatize and demystify STIs, STDs for sure.
Yeah. And then, when I do see patients and they have a lot of questions, I can be like, oh, you can also see more information here on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll put it in there after visit summary.
Yeah. I love that. For more information, check out this podcast.
Yeah, please subscribe.
That's so exciting. Oh, good for you. So I like to end the episode talking a little bit about, or asking my guests this question, which is, what is one piece of advice or one piece of wisdom that you've gotten from the mental health / therapy world? So this could be a piece of advice that you got from a therapist, or maybe a therapist that that's your friend, or maybe a therapist you saw on like Instagram that you were like, oh my God, this is so helpful. I'm going to take this with me everywhere I go.
Okay. Yeah, I had to think about it a little bit because I don't have a lot of experience with therapy, believe it or not. I have a little bit of a blind spot. I've tried. I've never really stuck with one specific therapist. I think I just have never found someone that I felt like was a good fit for me. So I can't speak to anything any therapist has ever told me because I've never gotten anything really substantial out of therapy.
Finding a good therapist is it really is like dating, finding any provider. You really have to go on a bunch of bad first dates before you're you're the one. Yeah.
And I think you've responded to some of my pleas on social media for me to try to find therapists, because I really do. I'm like, who is everybody seeing? Because and then the therapists that I do know of, a lot of them are my patients and I can't see them. So I'm like, ugh. But anyway, but then I kind of did have this thought, and I would say the most therapizing time of my life has been probably the past 5 or 6 years. And the first time I kind of dipped my toes into thinking about these therapy type things was when I was finishing up with PA school, which was 2019. And I've always been really into podcasts. And one of my favorite ones, still one of my favorites, is My Favorite Murder.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
You listen to it?
I haven't in a while. I listened when they first started, in the way beginning. And then I got a little true crimed out. So I've taken a little break, but I was obsessed with them two in particular. Yeah.
I go through phases for sure, but I just kind of fell in love with that one, and it became the thing that I would listen to when I was, on the bus or on the train going to school. I was living in Seattle at the time. I didn't really know anybody there. So I spent a lot of time with my podcasts. And they announced that they were going to release a book, and I looked it up on Spotify. It's called Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered.
Yes.
Wait, where'd it go? The definitive how-to guide. And I was like, oh, I have to listen to this. It's just going to be more of the podcast.
Right.
And it actually ended up being kind of it's like a memoir for the two girls who do the podcast. But it's also a self-help book kind of, because they're such huge therapy, mental health
I remember
advocates. They talk about it all the time.
They went to therapy as friends. They did what would be considered couples therapy, but for friends. And I was like, that is so fucking genius.
Yeah.
To have the foresight to do that, knowing that you're embarking on this professional adventure. Now they have their own studio, and they have their own they host a bunch of podcasts, and I just thought that was so brilliant. Let's go. It's just so uncommon for friends. Yeah. Especially business partners who are also friends to go into therapy. So I was like, oh, y'all are doing this right.
Yeah. No, that's so smart. And so I ended up getting a lot more out of that book than I was expecting. And I actually, there was one thing that I listened to over and over, and I actually was able to find it when I was when I looked it up today. So it's chapter 5, and it's when Georgia, one of the girls, says she does a list of like 10 things that she learned from therapy, or things that like hit really hard from therapy. And one of the things that she lists is, she titled it "Be Kind to Little You." And it's all about like shame and like the way that you see yourself previously. And if you look back on that with shame or like unhappiness, and the whole idea was, I think her therapist told her, like, when you have this negative self-talk, or when you think bad things about yourself, imagine saying those things to like the 5-year-old version of yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And like, how does that make you feel? Like,
Yeah.
and, and her reflection on that was, well, 5-year-old me doesn't deserve that. Like, 5-year-old me deserves like to be loved, and deserves patience and understanding, because, they're doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And so for some reason that like hit me really hard.
Yeah.
And I think partially because this was a time in my life when my life was kind of all over the place. PA school is chaotic. It's like med school, but in 2 years.
Oh, no, thank you. I could never. I'd be dead. My hat goes off to you. I would have passed away. Yeah.
It was rough. And I went through a breakup during the time that like kind of just like rocked my world.
Yeah.
And I was like, doing long hours, doing 24-hour shifts in the ER, and just like crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh. I went through a bad breakup in grad school. So like and I'm having to like go to my internship and see clients, and like on the verge of tears the whole time while I'm like trying to learn. I can relate. I empathize with you so hard. Yeah.
And feeling like you have to put that strong face on.
Right.
So it really kind of hit me at just the right time. And one of the other things that ladies like to promote is Brene Brown.
Yeah.
And so after finishing the Stay Sexy, Don't Get Murdered book, I was like, I'm going to listen to Brene Brown's book. And so I listened to Daring Greatly.
Good one. That's a good one.
And she, and it fits in perfectly, because all of her stuff is about like shame and vulnerability. And I think it was just like exactly what I needed to hear, because I think if anything, that's like one of my biggest struggles, and one of the things that I'm constantly working with or working on with myself, is to try to be more vulnerable and like be able to process my shame. And so, and I think also Brene Brown, because she's a scientist, she brings this type of like data driven, like evidence backed like it's therapy talk, but there's like numbers behind it.
Yeah.
And there's like real evidence.
I think she does a really good job of straddling the line between like qualitative and quantitative, like holding space for both, and and doing the like therapy talk, but then is like, and I have like the data to back up what I'm saying. I'm not just like, I'm not just saying this because it feels nice to say. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of me being like this scientific brained person, that works for me. So like hearing this in a way that seems like more credible to me, it just works so much better than just some random advice that I'm being given. Because I'm like, okay, this is like, there's something behind this. And maybe my need to have everything be so evidence-based could also be my downfall. Maybe it's the reason why I'm struggling to find a therapist that works with me.
Fair enough. Okay.
But so I know I'm open to that being something that I need to work on as well. But I think like that was really the beginning of me being more reflective on being vulnerable and why it's important to show vulnerability and not just feel like I need to be strong and, I can't show any signs of weakness or any of those things. And I think that's really what led to me being able to get into like a much healthier relationship, which, basically coincided because, me and Josh met like 4 years ago.
Okay.
And this was like 6 years ago. So I had 2 years to like, do the internal work.
Yeah.
And then now I feel like I'm able to like show up in a much more present and like and vulnerable way.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know my partner, so he's a talker.
Yeah.
And so if anything, he's just helping me more.
Right.
Because he's like modeling what vulnerability looks like, because he's so open.
Yep.
And he's just like willing to like just put it all out there for the sake of us understanding each other and getting
and for
to
closeness.
like a consensus. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's beautiful. Yeah. That part of you that like cringes at your younger self, like the part of you that like criticizes or judges is like, you know, the part that needs to be like dealt with or like confronted essentially.
Yeah.
I love that. Be kinder to little you. I think most of, if not all of us, could use a little bit of that. So
definitely.
That is a great piece of wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. I hope most folks take that with them. That's awesome.
Well, good.
Where can people find you if they wanted more of your content, if they wanted to get in touch with you or see what you got? Like, where can folks find you?
So the best place to find me right now is on Instagram at CollinsJake. Very creative. And on TikTok at Colin Jakes. I had to move the F. Yeah. Collins Jake was
already taken. So, that's so annoying. Well, thank you so much, Jake. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your expertise with us. I hope y'all listening found it helpful. And yes, I am a therapist, but this podcast is no substitute for good old-fashioned therapy. So take what's useful, leave the rest, and don't forget, therapy makes you hotter. Bye.